Before we begin the formal agenda, I'm obliged to read the following notice. There will be no fire drills scheduled in the building this evening. If the fire alarm sounds, then please could I ask you to make your way out of the building, down the main staircase and out the main doors and the town hall, and congregate at the entrance to Caldecott Park. An officer for the council will give instructions on when it is safe to return to the building. Moving on to the agenda, the first item of business is to approve the minutes of the meeting held on the 16th of July. Are members happy with that as a true record? Is that a proposal there? Yes. Thank you. And seconded. Second is to read apologies for absence.
We've received apologies from Councillor Simpson-Vince and Councillor Corradia. However, Councillor Claire Edwards is here as a substitute.
Thank you. Declaration of interests. Are there any non-pecuniary interests? Councillor Freeman.
Yes, I have, as a musician, performed at the Caldecott Arms in the past, though it predates my service as a councillor.
Thank you. Pecuniary interests? Notice under section 106 Local Government Finance Act. Non-payment of council tax or community charge. Now everyone's paying. We'll move on to agenda item 4. There are no public speakers, so I will move swiftly on to the officer's report.
And to the north of the site there is a vacant pub that's in partial disrepair. So obviously this is the front elevation, so obviously that's the application site, that's the Lawford Arms next door, and there's the neighbouring properties, obviously there's the site access. So is the access to the rear parking, and obviously the bin storage is located there. If it loads up. Oh, there we go. So there's the, oops. So here you have the rear site, so you've got the unmarked parking area. Here is the location, this is the existing kitchen, which they're planning to expand. If it will load. There we go. So, and this would be the location of the proposed outbuilding. So the application proposes the reopening of the premises to what currently was a traditional pub. They want to move it to a Chinese gastropub. They've explained for that to be facilitated, the need to expand the kitchen space to fit the cooking equipment in for the woks and so forth. The outbuilding that's being proposed is going to be for storages, so fridge and freezers have been explained. It's going to go in there. The extension would measure 3.2 metres in length, 11.6 metres in width, with a flat roof at 2.9 metres, constructed with red brick, which will match the external materials at the rear. The outbuilding will measure 7.3 metres by 5.8 metres, with a roof height of 2.7 metres at eaves and 3.9 to the apex of the roof. This would also be in red brick. The rear parking area would also be slightly expanded. So here you can see the plan. So this is obviously the existing here. And you can see the proposal here where the extension will sort of wrap around in a sense, expanding off the existing kitchen. And here's the floor plan. Noticeably the seating area will remain as is from the existing pub. Here's the plans of the outbuilding. And here's the parking plan. So here's the current unmarked parking area. And here will be the proposed parking area where you see it's expanding ever so slightly. Highways have said that this could fit approximately 12 plus vehicles in, but obviously it is unmarked. With the proposal, you'd have 11 marked bays. So the technical consultee responses: environmental health have no objections, subject to conditions and informatives. Archaeology have no objections, subject to conditions. Highways Department have no objection. Councillor Tim Willis has raised concerns regarding the design, bulk and position of the building and the potential negative effect on surrounding properties and the area, such as the loss of privacy and the level of noise and disturbance. Long Lawford Parish Council have also raised concerns regarding the existing parking presses in the local area, noting the loss of an existing parking space, the possible use of the outbuilding, and their view that the rear should be used for parking only. In regards to the third-party consultation responses, we've had 1 support and 3 objecting. The supporter believes the pub is an asset to the community, bring in more people, allow the pub to be renovated when it could hypothetically get flattened and turned into residential accommodation, is what they mentioned. In regards to the objectors, they've raised concerns about the loss of light to the garden, loss of privacy, noise disturbance from the operation of the pub, and the proposed outbuilding. Raised concerns that the car park is too small, concerns regarding the front elevation, and concerns about operating a pub as a takeaway service. So regarding the main considerations is first and foremost the principle of development. It's located within the settlement boundary of Long Lawford, which is considered the main rural settlement. Policies GP1 and GP2 support sustainable development in this location, and therefore it's considered to comply with them policies. Regarding the character and design and the impact on neighbouring properties, policy SDC1 of the local plan requires well-designed development that responds to the local character and requires development to safeguard the living conditions of neighbouring occupiers. The proposed kitchen extension would follow the existing rear design, particularly the flat roof, the external materials. And it's not anticipated to impact neighbouring amenity in any way. The outbuilding is considered to be an acceptable scale and design, again using red bricks and implementing a gable roof, which is in keeping with the site's character and what you'd expect of a kind of residential area that surrounds it, and therefore is not considered to impact neighbouring amenity. No changes are proposed to the front elevation, so there will be no impact to the existing street scene. Therefore, the policy is considered to comply with policy SDC1 of the local plan. Other matters, so rear parking will expand slightly and painted bays will be implemented for 11 vehicles. Highways have no safety issues. Highways don't believe any new highway safety issues could occur. Archaeology have raised concerns which will be addressed through a pre-commencement condition. The possibility of any new environmental health concerns will be beyond what is currently already the case, because it is an established pub, will be investigated through a noise impact assessment, which again will be a dischargeable condition. And the proposal also meets water efficiency standards, helping to achieve an environmentally sustainable design. So the planning balance and conclusion, the proposal complies with the settlement boundary where development is supported. So from an acceptable scale and massing, no harm is anticipated to the surrounding residential amenity. The parking arrangement would be formalised, safe access maintained, and highways have no objections. The scheme meets water efficiency standards, so it's considered to comply with policy SDC4, and archaeology concerns are to be secured through condition. And therefore, it's considered to comply with national and local planning policies. So the recommendation is that it be approved subject to conditions and informatives set out in the draft decision notice appended to the report, and that the Chief Officer of Growth and Investment be given delegated authority to make minor amendments to conditions and informatives as outlined in the draft decision notice.
Are there any technical points members wish to raise with the officer?
Well, I think the one that's pretty obvious is the security of the storeroom. It's the most insecure building I've ever come across for storage of what I would imagine it was expensive stock. You know, the two rear windows close to a boarded fence is ideal for would-be thieves to gain access without any issue. And normally where you've got a building that requires proper security, you'd have steel doors on the front or roller shutters. So it's a bit of an odd one, this is, so I could do with a bit more of an explanation.
Yeah, I mean, I've gone off the, obviously the submitted design. As obviously in the report, I was only considered the kind of impact on privacy outlook. I mean, security, I mean, obviously it's going to be fridges and freezers in there. And obviously the windows are tucked away facing the fence. So I don't know quite, I mean, you could argue it's quite well hidden, possibly not going to be targeted. But again, it's not, you know, something that was anticipated when writing a recommendation. It could be, you know.
I mean, yeah, just for you, Chair, as well, as members will recall, we can only consider the application it's put in before us and the plans that are submitted. I'm assuming that the applicant has given due consideration to what they will be storing in there and what security measures they put in place, and they have obviously deemed it acceptable for them to have such fenestration treatments as proposed. Obviously, as the case officer mentioned, it is round the back. They can obviously put in their own additional security measures if they choose, but obviously what is before members is what was submitted to us, and that hasn't been raised a concern. So I'm assuming the applicant, you know, will put necessary measures in place if they need to.
Councillor Stavish, Ramesh.
It's not work. Thanks, Chairman. What I want is there's a concern about Chinese takeaway position. So what is the, because this will create a lot of parking issues, people who will queue in terms of queues. What is this situation? There won't be facility, or there will be?
Yeah, so they're not currently proposing to operate the pub as a takeaway, and if there is to do that, then you'd expect a further application to be made because it would fall under a different use class from what the premises already has. So it's not part of this application. If that were to occur without a new application being submitted, it would likely, almost certainly, constitute an enforcement breach. So that, you know, obviously enforcement action would therefore take place.
Just the outbuilding again, 5.8 by 7.3, that's over 40 square metres. It seems a very big fridge, really. I didn't know if there was more sort of detail on the layout.
Yeah, I mean, when I was assessing it, obviously, it's surrounded by residential properties, and typically you can build an outbuilding in a residential curtilage without a planning application being needed. Obviously, you can only go with what's been submitted. It's going to be used for storage for the kitchen. And there is a proposed condition within the put forward in the draft decision notice, basically making it clear this can only be used for storage associated with the premises. So any kind of speculative kind of alternative uses, that would have to come through a new application were this to be approved, where it would obviously be considered again.
Could I just remind members, there is an amendment to condition 6, which states that the outbuilding shall only be used for the storage by the premises identified and the plans listed under condition 2, so it can only ever be used for storage and no other purpose. Councillor Picker.
Thank you, Chair. Just going back to paragraph 11.6 and bullet point 2. So we've got this outbuilding with rear-facing windows facing a closed boarded fence, but there is the potential for, as I understand it, and I did go out to have a look at the site myself this afternoon, there is a sort of potential for it to be overlooking the properties behind the site. So my only question is, if this is just being treated as an outbuilding, is there any condition that we could attach to it to have that glass be frosted so that it's not presenting any kind of overlooking issue in the same way that we might require with certain domestic buildings, just to overcome that one concern that's been raised?
Yeah, I mean, a condition could be imposed, basically stating it needs to be obscure glazed. I mean, typically it's normally when it's looking into a habitable room rather than a garden, but obviously it can still be put on as a condition.
With that, will we do that as an informative? Or?
Well, I mean, obviously on technical questions, sorry, we're on technical questions at the moment, but obviously if in debate, if members chose to seek for that condition to be added as well, if that was their, what was tabled, then yes, you know, we could do that. I think that could be, you know, could be considered reasonable.
In terms of the conduct of the meeting, that's right. We are starting with the technical aspects and then we move into debate, and members can move a further condition or amend a condition should they so wish.
We will go into debate, members.
I'll kick things off then. So firstly, I'm minded to support the proposals. I know sort of the gastropub sector in that entire leisure and hospitality sector is facing tough times at the moment. So I think however we can support them, we probably should. So I'm minded to move approval. I do just wonder about that additional condition of just, because it's only a storage unit, I'm slightly perplexed at the rear-facing windows in the first place. So I suppose I will throw that out to the floor, that if we added a condition, say that those are to be obscure glazed, subject to any legal issues that might arise from that condition.
Yeah, well, as Councillor Picker, I'm in support of the general proposals of this application, but I'm still majorly concerned about the storage building, and I would propose that we add an additional condition, specific condition, that the building is not to be used for accommodation of persons. I think that would cover all bases, and because we tend to find that a lot of these businesses can do that without public authorities, local authorities realising what's happening. But if that was a specific condition, then that would certainly overrule any possibility of it used for accommodation.
Yeah, I mean, through you, Chair, obviously we've bolstered the storage building condition anyway. If there was anyone living in there, then that would require a separate application anyway, and would then be, you know, I assume would be flagged by enforcement team. So, I mean, my advice to you is that it is covered within the bolstered condition that members do see within the addendum. But I note your concerns, Councillor.
It does add, I believe the application 1 is helpful because the hospitality industry has been through a nightmare since COVID. It's only just about hanging on by its fingertips. And I think it does help with rural diversification, i.e. it does enable another functioning business to be available within the parish along Lawford. And for those reasons, I would support the application, subject to the amendments, the double glazing proposal from Councillor Picker and the formal amendments we have on the storage unit.
Obscure glazing.
The obscure glazing, yeah.
I think, Chairman, it would be helpful if members could debate and vote on whether or not obscure glazing should be added to the existing condition or not.
Councillor.
I would be happy to second the proposal with obscure glazing being added, and I would delegate to the officers the wording for that. Just a little bit more debate, and I think there was one thing about parking. I think because it wasn't lined out at the moment, roughly 12 and 11, they're too close to make that an issue. We understand there's noise going to be abatement looked at going forward. We understand that storage is going to be storage. So nobody living there, no food prep, it is just storage. Okay, and I think that will be the message back to the applicant, is they will have to come back if they are to use anything more than that storage. I think that needs to be understood, but I would second the approval of this.
Yeah, are we voting on the approval of the condition or the application? I think we're voting on the condition, not the application yet. We haven't got to that yet. Am I correct? I think I'm correct. Yeah.
Yeah, through you, Chair.
Oh, sorry.
I was going to say, obviously, members have had some debate on it now. Obviously, from what I understand, is that you could vote for it together. You could vote, you could put a recommendation together now. Obviously, Councillor Sanson's moved it. Councillor Lawrence has seconded it. Is it on the basis of? My understanding was it was on the basis of the officer report, subject to 2 changes of the conditions. Well, one, the storage one, as outlined in the amendment, and then the second condition being added about obscure glazing. That's my understanding, Councillor Gillespie. Obviously, if committee want further clarification, please speak.
I'm certainly of the opinion that we need to support rural businesses, absolutely. But I've raised the issue about the building possibly being used for accommodation. I've raised it. It's been recorded. So if sometime down the line that is used for accommodation, then we've got the evidence to say that you cannot do that.
Yeah, that's correct, and we can take action.
Yes, thank you.
And Chairman, I would suggest that members vote on the amended condition, because there may be some members who agree and some who don't. And if we took the suggested amended condition along with approval of the application, those members that disagreed with the suggested amendment may not vote for it. So I think we ought to take that separately.
We'll have a vote on the condition as amended. Those in favour? Those against? That condition is carried. And the recommendation as amended, all those in favour, please show. Those against? Any abstentions? None. Thank you. Okay. Have we had any advance notice of site visits on applications?
No, we haven't, Chair.
Thank you. Appeals updates.
Okay, thank you, Chair. We have got a planning appeals update. As members will see, the first page of Appendix A I actually discussed in detail with members a couple of committees ago, so I wasn't potentially going to go over those again. But if any member has any question, please feel free to ask the question now. On the second page, we have had, there are 5 appeals listed there. They were all dismissed. 3 of them in relation to harm to openness and inappropriate development in the Greenbelt, 1 on harm to living conditions of local residents, and then the other one was harmful to the character and appearance of the area. In terms of Appendix B, which is applications that are appeals that are currently pending, we've had 1 come back, which actually I think it's more recent because it's not actually listed, but it was to at 9 Vicarage Lane in Dunchurch, which was R241029, which was extensions to a dwelling. That was actually allowed. The inspector felt that the character and appearance of the conservation area and the setting of listed buildings wasn't harmed. They did apply for an application of costs against the council, but that was refused. In terms of Appendix B, which relates to enforcement appeals that are running, the only decision we've actually had back is Lazy Acre at Watling Street. This was a hearing. It was part allowed and part dismissed, but the element that was allowed was for the stationing of 2 caravans for permanent residential use and associated hard standing in connection with the Gypsy and Traveller community. What was dismissed was an element of fencing and gates associated with part of the site. All the other appeals are still pending and we're waiting for a decision from the inspectorate. And as some members will note there, that some of these appeals do backdate till 2024, which obviously indicates the inspectorate have obviously got quite a backlog of appeals at the moment, but they are coming through slowly. Thank you, Chair. Any questions? I'm happy to take them.
Yeah, thanks again, Chair. It'd be very interesting for the members of this planning committee and the public to understand over the years just how many of our Gypsy and Traveller sites that have all been unintentional, unauthorised development, how many of those have actually been dismissed appeal? Because I've just got the feeling that all have been allowed throughout the whole of the borough. And yet we know most of them are actually in the green belt.
I mean, obviously, when the inspector obviously is a different determining body, I don't have the specific statistics on me, but you are correct that I think on a percentage-wise, the majority of them have been allowed, even if on a temporary basis, by the inspectorate.
So at some point in the future, could we have that information? as to
Yeah,
as to how we're progressing, how our our enforcement team are progressing, how successful they are with getting our green belt back to green belt.
Well, I mean, obviously, it's to do with that's quite a specific point, which obviously work is being done in terms of figures and statistics. So it could be that that is reported back. It may not necessarily be in this forum, but it might be through Planning Services Working Party. But yeah, the information could be gathered and reported back to members.
Noted.
That brings us to the end of our business this evening. Thank you for your attendance, and especially those who turned up for the site visit.